Hey guys, Dennis here, Muddy Water Search and Recovery. I wanted to do this video and get it out to you guys. We're going to do some updates on some things. We're going to talk about a few different things. I do have my notes today with some talking points to go over, but hope you enjoyed this video. Just to kind of break it down, we're going to talk about the farm show where we're going to have a booth at that event again this year. We're going to put a message out to hunters, fishermen, mushroom hunters, etc. We're going to talk a little bit about what Muddy Water Search and Recovery does. We're going to go into the difference between a rescue and a recovery. We're going to talk about the new regulations when it comes to federal regulations on how law enforcement investigate a missing minor. As we've talked about many times and disagreed with 100%, they can no longer just say, hey, this is a missing runaway. We'll kind of break that down a little bit for you guys. Talk about some stuff that's coming up. So let's just jump right into this. And we're going to start with the Western Farm Show. If you followed us for very long, the last couple of years, the Western Farm Show has invited us in, allowed us to set a booth up at their event, and there's thousands of people that come through this event. And we put a big TV screen up, and it constantly plays missing persons flyers on a reel, and we play that all through this event. A lot of good interactions take place at this event. There is literally something there for everybody. If you're going to be in the Kansas City area February 19th, 20th, or 21st, please come out and see us. We will be at the American Royal Complex, 1701 American Royal Court in Kansas City, Missouri. I promise you will have a good time. There are multiple vendors at this event. And they've got a little bit of everything. There are food trucks at this event. There's a concession stand at the American Royal Complex. I promise you would have a really good time. We would really love to see you guys out there. February 19th through the 21st. This year is the first year that is a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Normally it's been Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So this year that is different, but it's always a great turnout, always a lot of fun. For more information on the Western Farm Show or to purchase tickets, visit westernfarmshow.com. And again, we hope to see you guys out there. We've met several of you at the Western Farm Show, and it's just an incredible time. So come out, have fun, bring your family, and just enjoy the day. So next, I want to kind of talk to the hunters, the fishermen, the mushroom hunters, and we try to do this every so often. But every single year, multiple missing loved ones, their remains are found by hunters, fishermen, people out looking for morel mushrooms. Every single year without fail, multiple missing loved ones are brought home by hunters and fishermen accidentally discovering the remains out in the wilderness, out in the water. So to all of our hunters and fishermen out there, please keep your eyes open anytime that you are out and about in the woods or on the water. If you see anything that raises a question with you, don't hesitate to notify law enforcement. I promise you, they would rather you call them out there and it be nothing than for you to decide not to let anybody know and leave, and years down the road, somebody else stumble across that and it turns out to be a missing person. Please do not hesitate to reach out to law enforcement. If for whatever reason you're not comfortable doing that, please reach out to us. if we cannot physically get there, we can get that information to where it needs to go. Get somebody boots on the ground there as soon as possible, and you may be able to help bring home a missing loved one. So please be vigilant, and please don't hesitate to reach out and let your suspicions be known. And again, we try to mention this several times throughout the year, but please just stay vigilant out there. So I want to talk a little bit about what we do. When it comes to the open source investigative side, we do our own open source investigation on the cases that we're working on. There is a lot of information in cases that we do not bring public because we do not want to in any way interfere with law enforcement's investigation. We have to protect the integrity of their investigation as well as our own. We don't do this to try to determine guilt. We do this to help us basically narrow down search locations. You know, let's say we had this missing person and we ask, you know, did John Doe have any reason to harm this missing person? If so, what locations do we need to look at that could tie into this, that could hold answers? Then we work on accessing that location to do water and ground searches to try to bring the missing loved one home. So we're not trying to figure out who's guilty. We're not trying to figure out exact answers of what happened. Our open source investigation is simply to help us determine what locations we need to search. We're not private investigators. Unless it's just an extreme circumstance, you know, we're not taking a case to a Supreme Court or to anything like that. That's not what we do. If we do come across information that can benefit law enforcement, we will 100% share that with them. At the same time, respecting anybody who wishes to remain anonymous. If somebody asks us to keep information anonymous, we will 100% do that with two exceptions. Number one would be if we felt that that person giving the information was guilty of this person going missing, meaning foul play. At that point, we are required to notify law enforcement with that information. The only other way we would share confidential information would be if law enforcement came to us with a warrant signed by the courts demanding us release that information. That is the only two ways. Otherwise, that information remains within our team unless we have that person's specific permission to share that with another specific person. So wanted to kind of update that. That hasn't changed from day one. So that's what we do. We do have sonar. We run on water. We do different types of ground searches. We're equipped to do different types of ground searches, and we plan on expanding our capabilities, both ground and water. So if you have any questions on what we do, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will be more than happy to answer any of those. So one of the common misconceptions is that a search and recovery team is the same as a search and rescue team. There are big differences. I know a lot of areas now seem to be almost trying to incorporate the two. I don't really agree with doing that because they are two separate things. But let's kind of jump into these and break these down. You know, in a rescue mission, time is of the essence because the goal is to save a life. A recovery mission assumes the person is deceased, and the objective is to retrieve the body with minimal risk to the recovery team. Now, I do want to do a disclosure here. This information, while isn't graphic really in nature as far as details, it does talk about the differences between recovery and rescue, meaning somebody potentially still alive or somebody deceased. A rescue mission is a high stakes operation launched when there's a reasonable expectation that a person is still alive and can be saved. This hinges on several factors, primarily time elapsed since the incident and environmental conditions. Key elements of a rescue mission: time sensitivity. This is a defining factor. The golden hour is often used, especially in water rescues, as a benchmark. Risk acceptance. Rescue teams are prepared to accept a higher level of risk to save a life. This doesn't mean reckless behavior, but a calculated assessment of the situation with a bias towards action. Active search. The mission involves an active search for a living person using techniques like grid searches, sonar, and aerial reconnaissances. And there is a medical focus in a rescue, with immediate medical care being a priority once the person is located. A recovery mission, on the other hand, is undertaken when it's determined that the chances of survival are virtually nil. The focus shifts from saving a life to retrieving a body with minimal risk to the team. It's like the meticulous cleanup after a particularly messy fight. The stakes are different, but professionalism and respect are paramount. And I believe I've got the link to where I've found all of this information that I will bring up here in a minute. I do want to pause just a second. These differences is when it comes to your search and rescue teams and when they transition to a recovery team. This doesn't necessarily line up with how we do things. I want to mention that real quick, and we'll do a breakdown of that here shortly. The presumption of death. The assumption is that the person is deceased based on factors like time elapsed, conditions, and evidence found. Risk minimization. The priority is to minimize the risk to the recovery team. The mission is approached with caution and methodical planning. Efforts are made to preserve evidence that may be relevant to investigations. And the deceased is always treated with respect and dignity throughout the recovery process. So now let's take that information and put it towards how we actually operate. When we take on a case, we don't automatically assume that the person is deceased. I know that kind of contradicts with the search and recovery in our title, but many of our cases, we don't believe the individual to be deceased. So while we're not a rescue team, rescue is more for if a vehicle is seen driving off into water. A hiker goes missing walking on a trail. That's the rescue missions that this is describing. Somebody going missing and no apparent location of where they are. A lot of people would say, well, they're likely still alive, so this is a rescue. It could be argued, but at that point, we're not looking at this as just we're going out to look for a body. We're going into this with the mindset that until we have proof that the individual is deceased, then there is a chance they are still alive. And we are going to look for them. Many teams out there require that the person missing is in a vehicle, water related, and many of them that it's not a foul play case. We don't put those limits on what we do. I fully understand why they do that and not criticizing them in any way, shape, or form. But we do it a little bit different. We do not require water to be involved. We do not require a vehicle to be involved. And, you know, even if it's suspected to be foul play, we're not going to walk away from the case. The cases that we've had where we have received threats on and are still working on those cases today, I think kind of helps show that. So just because we take a case does not mean that we come into it believing the individual is deceased. That is a very common misconception because so many other teams on YouTube and TikTok, the cases they come in on, they do believe the individual to be deceased in 99% of what they do. We don't, because we will take any missing persons case that comes in. We're not going to turn any case down. So we have a complete different mindset. So I want to be very, very clear with that just because we're working on a case does not mean we immediately believe them to be deceased. In fact, we pretty much have the mindset there's a chance that they are still alive unless we have enough evidence that makes us believe otherwise. So that is kind of a rundown. I do have more I could go over with that, but it basically just kind of repeats everything that was mentioned. While a lot of that isn't specifically lined up with us and what we do, I still feel it's relevant to know the difference between the two. If we are ever called out to assist with an actual rescue, we would respond in a heartbeat. We would never turn that down because that is still a missing person, and we would still do everything in our power to help. So while we are a search and recovery team, not all of our cases are we looking for a deceased person, and we are willing to assist in a rescue mission if we are ever needed for that. So I hope that kind of helps you understand a little bit more about that. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out. I would be more than happy to answer anything that I can. I also want to do a live Q&A in the coming weeks, within the next 2 or 3 weeks or so, where we do come on and do a live feed where we take any questions that you may have and we try to answer those for you. So if you have any questions, that's another thing you could do is make a list of your questions. We'll let you know ahead of time when that live feed will take place, and we could do a live Q&A. Speaking of live feeds, this Sunday night, we will be live 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And we will be discussing the Loy Evitz case. Loy Evitz has been missing from Kansas City, Missouri. Picture's too far over. But she's missing from Kansas City, Missouri since February 28th of 1977. This case, Alex got a hold of me about this case, and it is a very interesting case. You're not going to want to miss it. We will go over all the information we have on this particular case and then move right into an open discussion on the live feed with you guys on this particular case. So this Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, we hope to see you there. I hope this video has helped at least a little bit in some way. Any questions you have, please reach out to us. The easiest place to reach out to us is off of our website. It's got my phone number on there, Alex's phone number. It's got a page there where you could type in a message and it emails straight to us. The link to the website, as always, is in the video description. So any questions, anything, please reach out to us. With that, you guys continue to stay safe. We will see you guys down the road.